The trip was never meant to be dangerous. It was supposed to be a break from routine, a short escape from the cold streets of Chicago into the warmth of Florida's nightlife. 3 friends, women who had known each other for years, booked the flight with excitement and trust. They shared laughter in the airport, posted selfies online, and told their families they would be back in a few days. None of them knew that this trip would mark the last time they were seen alive. The invitation had come casually. A party in Florida, hosted by people who claimed to have connections in entertainment and business. Promises of celebration, networking, and relaxation made it sound harmless. The women were cautious by nature, but the host appeared legitimate. Social media profiles were polished. Mutual acquaintances vouched loosely. It seemed safe enough, or so they believed. When they arrived in Florida, the atmosphere felt intoxicating. Palm trees, ocean air, and a sense of freedom surrounded them. They checked into a rental not far from the party location and spent the day preparing, laughing, choosing outfits, filming short videos for friends back home. That night, they left together in a rideshare, telling family members they would check in later. That message would never come. The party was held at a secluded property, far from busy streets. From the outside, it looked luxurious, modern architecture, loud music pulsing through walls, expensive cars parked haphazardly outside. Inside, the energy was intense. Alcohol flowed freely. Strangers filled every corner. The mood was electric but unstable, the kind of environment where lines blur and danger hides behind smiles. Witnesses later recalled seeing the 3 women arrive together. They were friendly, approachable, clearly outsiders in a crowd that seemed to know each other. As the night went on, things shifted. Arguments broke out in pockets of the party. Some guests appeared heavily intoxicated. Others seemed unusually guarded, whispering among themselves. The women reportedly tried to stick together, but in the chaos, separation became inevitable. Sometime after midnight, one of the women sent a short text to a close friend back in Chicago. It was vague but unsettling. "This place feels off." Minutes later, another message followed. "We're trying to leave." That was the last confirmed communication from any of them. By morning, their silence became alarming. Phones went straight to voicemail. Messages went unread. Family members initially assumed the women were asleep or traveling, but concern quickly turned into panic. When no one could reach them by afternoon, relatives contacted authorities. Police soon discovered that the women never returned to their rental. Their belongings, passports, clothes, personal items, were still inside. Surveillance footage showed them entering the party property, but revealed nothing about them leaving. The rideshare company confirmed no return trip had been requested. It was as if they had vanished into thin air. As investigators began questioning party attendees, the story grew darker. Some guests claimed to remember seeing the women leave with different people. Others said they had been escorted into a private area of the property. Several individuals refused to cooperate entirely. The host of the party became unreachable within hours of the investigation starting. Rumors began to spread about illegal activity, hidden rooms, and people who shouldn't have been there. Law enforcement uncovered that the property had been used before for unregistered events. Complaints had been filed in the past, but nothing substantial had ever been proven. Now, 3 lives were missing, and the clock was ticking. Back in Chicago, families gathered in anguish. Parents replayed the last conversations they had with their daughters. Friends shared photos online, pleading for information. Vigils were held as hope clung desperately to the belief that the women were alive somewhere, unable to reach out. But investigators were growing less optimistic. Evidence suggested foul play. The longer the women were missing, the darker the possibilities became. Detectives expanded the search area, combing nearby woods, waterways, and abandoned properties. Every hour that passed deepened the fear. What had really happened at that Florida party? And why had 3 friends walked into a night they would never walk out of? Part 1 ends with more questions than answers, and a growing sense that the truth may be far more horrifying than anyone imagined. As the investigation deepened, law enforcement began to unravel a web of deception surrounding the Florida party. What initially appeared to be a social gathering quickly revealed itself as something far more dangerous. The host, now officially labeled a person of interest, had a history that raised serious red flags. Prior aliases, unexplained income, and connections to individuals with criminal records painted a troubling picture. Detectives returned to the party property with forensic teams. Inside, they found signs of a violent struggle, scuffed floors, broken glass, and traces of blood that had been hastily cleaned. The evidence suggested panic, not an accident. Someone had tried to erase what happened that night. Several guests were brought in for questioning. Stories conflicted. Timelines didn't match. Some claimed the women left early. Others insisted they never saw them after a certain point. Surveillance footage from nearby roads showed suspicious vehicle movements in the early hours of the morning. Cars leaving the area at odd times, taking indirect routes. Days later, a breakthrough came. A phone belonging to one of the women was recovered miles away, discarded near a canal. It had been powered off and damaged. Though no direct messages could be retrieved, its location data confirmed the women had never left the party together. Whatever happened to them occurred there or shortly after. The discovery shifted the investigation from missing persons to a presumed homicide case. Families were informed, and hope gave way to heartbreak. The reality that the women may never come home settled heavily on everyone involved. Search teams intensified their efforts. Boats combed waterways. Drones scanned remote land. Volunteers joined authorities, driven by empathy and outrage. Media coverage exploded nationwide, putting pressure on officials to deliver answers. Eventually, remains were discovered in separate locations, confirming the worst fears. The details were kept from the public out of respect for the families, but authorities stated clearly, the women were victims of a violent crime. The party had been a trap, not an accident. Arrests followed. Several individuals connected to the event were taken into custody, charged with crimes ranging from obstruction of justice to homicide-related offenses. The host, once charming and persuasive, was exposed as a manipulator who had lured victims under false pretenses. Court proceedings revealed chilling details, how trust was exploited, how warnings were ignored, and how greed and recklessness cost 3 innocent lives. Witness testimony painted a picture of a night that spiraled out of control, fueled by secrecy and criminal intent. For the families, justice could never replace what was lost. Funerals were held in Chicago, marked by tears, unanswered questions, and memories of laughter that now felt painfully distant. The women were remembered not for how they died, but for how they lived, kind, ambitious, and full of promise. In the aftermath, the case sparked national conversations about safety, social media invitations, and the dangers of trusting unfamiliar environments. Warnings were issued. Awareness campaigns launched. But for 3 families, the lessons came at an unbearable cost. The story of the 3 friends from Chicago became a cautionary tale, a reminder that danger can hide behind music, lights, and friendly invitations. A party that promised joy instead delivered silence. And though the truth eventually surfaced, it arrived too late to save them.